Hey guys, thanks for joining in. This is Ali Nassim here from eFlux, and we are here for a very exciting webinar. And JD Edwards, digital transformation, that's the buzzword you've been hearing over the past year. Now we are all ready to get into action with different integration frameworks that are going to enable that. The structure of this webinar, let's quickly go through the agenda here. First of all, we're going to set the context of why digital transformation has become such an important topic. We are going to see some of the customers who've already embarked on this journey of digital transformation for the JD Edwards in 2016 with us. We are going to see some examples for how integration of JD Edwards enhances the customer's experience. We're going to look at the business services integration framework, how that enables a seamless real-time integration between the cloud applications and the JD Edwards. We're going to also take a look at a digital field service integration with JD Edwards, how seamlessly your work order management and your digital field service can work hand in hand. We're also going to take a look at enterprise mobility and how AIS, which is application interface service, allows integrating your mobile apps with your core applications within JD Edwards. We're also going to look at different options available for integrating your e-commerce with JD Edwards. We're also going to move forward and discuss a very exciting IoT orchestrator tool. By the way, we are in the customer advisory board for IoT, so we've been working very closely with Oracle with the roadmap as to how JD Edwards IoT orchestrator is being utilized in the overall ecosystem within Oracle, as well as connecting it with the outside world. And then, last but not the least, by any means, we're going to see it all working together. So that's going to be really exciting to see all these pieces of puzzle get together to, in a kind of end-to-end demo. Okay, so before we get into the detail, let's set the context here. Let's see why digital transformation is such a huge topic and why you need to be, taking care of that. So first of all, the operational backbone, which is the core ERP. In our case, we're talking about JD Edwards. So all the core modules, your financials, your manufacturing, supply chain, payrolls, vendor management, procurement, all the key master records, the system of records is all in the JD Edwards. And this is something you've been building over years and decades, and you've been fine-tuning those things as per your business needs. The other thing, the other area, which is customer experience, has mostly to do with all the interactions that you do with your end consumers or end customers. That includes your in-venue, your in-store capabilities. It could be kiosk, it would be different customer touch points. CRM is an important component when it comes to customer 360-degree view, web portals, self-servicing, e-commerce, social, mobile, all those different plethora of different channels and devices that your customers are most comfortable with. You've got to interact with them on their preferred means and at their timings. So the customer experience cannot be the part of the operational backbone. However, it has to be very well integrated with the operational backbone or the ERP. Now, the other thing that you've been seeing, and this is the fun part, is the digital intelligence, where we talk about the Internet of Things, how the different assets that you have as an enterprise or other equipment that you deployed at the customer site be brought into the picture, and how that intelligent data that can come from there, you can do big data analytics on that. How do you put together machine learning and artificial intelligence frameworks within your enterprise to make sure you collect all that data, make a lot of sense out of it, and then integrate with your customer interactions as well as your core business processes. Now, digital transformation backbone, and this is how all of that sums together. Now, this specific zone that you're seeing is the magic zone, right? Where you are getting data from your operational backbone, which is the ERP, your customer interaction data, you understand your customer fully, you have the digital intelligence across the different enterprise assets, and then using these technologies like business services, application interface services, IoT orchestrator, SOA middleware, process cloud service, and all those integration frameworks, how do you build all that together? And this is precisely where we are focused at as a company. And we're pretty much the experts when it comes to creating these sort of agile integration strategies and framework for our customers. The other way of looking the same thing is, if you see these three pillars, we're talking customer interactions, which is kind of equivalent to the customer experience circle you saw in the last diagram. Then you've got enterprise assets. They could be mobile assets. They could be deployed assets. Depending on which industry we're talking about, there could be all sorts of different assets that you might want to track. Then you have the core enterprise processes that you have mastered and polished over years and decades that are critical, kind of very strategic asset for you. The digital transformation backbone is kind of a bridge between all these three. So that's a different way of looking at the same thing. We as a company, we are Oracle specialized partner for Internet of Things and for integration, especially with JD Edwards. And we are a company which is right at the cutting edge when it comes to integrating JD Edwards and transforming the customers from the digital perspective. So we've been integrating JD Edwards with all sorts of different cloud applications, third-party applications, and some of the customers that we've been working with who have already embarked on the digital transformation journey with us come from all sorts of different industries. They come from construction, they come up from printing services, they come from manufacturing, healthcare, chemical industries, and all that. So we've either training them with integration frameworks or actually implementing some of these very interesting technologies out there. Some of the other customers that we've been working a lot on the customer experience side and integration and stuff like that. So we'll pass quickly forward and let's get into the meat of the topic. So first of all, we're going to take a look at the business services overview. So first of all, this is your JD Edwards. This is our core modules, either on-prem or with 9.2. The option is to have them on the cloud as well. Then you've got third-party systems. There could be all sorts of systems, right? Now, this is the conventional way of integrating them that you've been doing for years and decades, right? Which is using the UBEs, using the batch process. This approach is that it's non-real time. It's very clunky, right? So you have to batch upload them, and then they're definitely not real time. They're pretty slow and sluggish. They're pretty error prone because you have to kind of manually inspect those UBE errors. There's offline error correction, and then and at the end of this, a pretty bad user experience, even a pretty bad developer experience. So to say, the end customer that really feels the pain because of the right information not available at the right time, and definitely not in the real time. Now, what has business services done here? And we'll take it from the customer's viewpoint. So today's customer, as we know, is surrounded by all these different digital channels and digital equipments and digital devices, right? So they are comfortable as a default on the cloud. They are comfortable using all these different channels, and you need to provide those channels to them. You need to provide them mobile apps. You've got to provide them self-service portals. And all of that innovation is being built on the enterprise cloud apps that Oracle and other vendors provide. Now, what business services does is it sits right between these two realms. One, your core ERP, and then using SOAP protocol, which is a pretty old standard by now, which uses XML web services, XML as a format for transferring the data both ways. So what that basically gives you is a real-time integration. So if you talk about your sales order being captured on your website, you can directly integrate that with your core sales order entry module, and so on and so forth. It's all standards-based. There's auto correction. There's auto error correction. So the fault tolerance is built right into the integration framework. The real-time notifications are available. You can use real-time events. So anything happening inside of JD Edwards, using consumer services, you can invoke external services. Also using transaction server and RTE, which is real-time events. You can also capture those real-time events and send push notifications, for example, to the mobile app. They provide a pretty good user experience. both to your developers as well as to the end users, and more especially to your end customers. Here's a high-level overview of your business services architecture. So you have your enterprise server, you have your application server, which is the HTML server. The transaction server monitors all your real-time events and can capture them and trigger certain, invoke certain services outside of your enterprise. Your business services server sits on top of an application server. It would either be sitting on top of a WebLogic server or a WebSphere server, and it's in constant contact with your enterprise server. So your C business functions, as you all know, are being used at the core. What business services does, it uses Java and XML web services to create a sort of a facade layer on top of your C business functions and exposes them to the outside world. So you can either call an external service, or an external system can call your service, which is a published service. So these are some of the modules that we, some of the components of your JD Edwards along with the business services server. So you can either have a point-to-point integration, or you could use an enterprise service bus or a BPL orchestrator in the middle to make those sort of integration with the third-party products. So let's look at how JD Edwards can integrate to enhance a customer's experience. So we're going to take a look at some of the leading cloud applications for the customer experience, both from Oracle as well as Salesforce, Adobe, etc., and how you can integrate, and some of the use cases here. So a sales order entry from your CRM right inside of your core JD Edwards, an inventory sync from your JD Edwards onwards to the to your Salesforce or to your CRM, so that you can make order booking, knowing what your current inventory levels are. Work order estimates, more from the service CRM perspective. So if you need to do a service billing, a bill of material based on a maintenance call that you maybe did, and things like those. So all of those kind of get into play. Here's a high-level overview for how JD Edwards, using business services, connects with a service cloud. And here you can see that on the other side, you have a Connect PHP API, which is connecting using SOAP with your business services server. So all the other applications within Oracle right now, they can be exposed to your Connect API, and all your JD Edwards services or modules and their interfaces can be exposed using your business services server, and both can communicate seamlessly so that both of your systems are in sync all the time. So let's move forward and also talk a little bit about the digital field service. And this is an interesting area because a lot of different industries, especially the ones that require, that need to maintain or provide maintenance for against SLAs to different equipment that they have sold to the customer, and they need to service them on an ongoing basis. So it could be corrective maintenance, could be predictive maintenance, and those sort of scenarios. Let's kind of take a deeper look as to how this would look like. So on the left side, you see the JD Edwards module, and here you're seeing all the customer masters, the service provider, suppliers, work order, spare parts management, SLA, field service, all the core modules are here. On the right side, you see, in this specific case, Oracle Field Service Cloud. It could be other field service cloud applications like ServiceMax or maybe others. Now here, what you're basically doing is using application interface services, business services, and orchestrator. You have all these options available, and we'll see when to use what as we move forward. But just kind of a bird's eye view. Let's dig deeper a little bit further to see what further sub-modules are available within your master module that you can connect to. So here, taking the same theme further, let's talk about your field service org. Maybe you are a construction company and you provide those field service, you send out your equipment and you send out your field service guys, or you're an oil and gas equipment provider that needs to serve all that. So you have a VP operations for your field service, you have maybe a customer, a field service engineer, an account manager whose job is to maintain the account and upsell, and you have an ops manager and maybe a dispatcher. Here we'll just take a quick look as to how this thing is going to work. So you have a customer, Christy, who starts a service request based on the SLA that gets routed to your ops manager, and then the outreach or the dispatcher, she needs to send out and schedule an appointment with the customer. So all this core SLA and the warranty and all that is being maintained within your JD Edwards. However, all your scheduling and smart routing and all those capabilities which need to be more real time are in your field service cloud. So your field service management console needs to be seamlessly integrated with your JD Edwards. The field service engineer needs to have a field service mobility interface where he can be notified as to what services he needs to perform in the day. And even while he's on the road, he should be able to get to real-time notifications so that you can optimize the routing for your service engineers, and they can serve the customer with all the they're completely equipped with all the right information that they might need. And from there on, once the service engineer provides a great service to the customer and closes out a work order, at that point, because of a seamless integration with maybe a Sales Cloud or a Salesforce, you can have the upsell process triggered right from within the same mobile app. So the idea is that your mobile app that you have with the field service engineer has is seamlessly connected not just with your core JD Edwards, but also connected with other cloud applications which are specialized for other areas of your business, right? Like sales or service or other knowledge management, things like those. So like those processes can be triggered right from inside of the same app. And for the service engineer, the whole experience is seamless and definitely a great experience for the end customer as well. So let's move forward and let's talk a little bit about the application interface services. The key difference between the business services and application interface services is business services is based on SOAP protocol, which is Simple Object Access Protocol. It's kind of a more heavyweight when you compare it to the other protocol that AIS uses, which is REST. So REST basically uses JSON as the packets that are sent out from between your different systems. Using REST protocol, the JSON is sent out between the different systems here. So what Oracle has done is something very intelligent with AIS. What they've done is they've given every functionality that you have on your P applications or every actions that are available on your P applications. All of them are available through application interface services out of the box. So if you have a particular sales order entry form that you need to populate with some data, that population and then clicking the button, all that can be virtualized through the application interface web service that can be invoked by any AIS client. Those could be mobile app, those could be any social network or any application whatsoever that can consume or provide the REST protocol. So let's kind of dig a little bit deeper. So there are 4 different types of application interface services. One is the form service, where it enables interaction with a single form. It can populate the fields, it can press the buttons virtually just by making those service calls. The other one is the batch service. The batch service allows you to make sequential calls to multiple forms without any dependencies. So there are no dependencies, and you need to do 4 things together. So to save the round trip, you can have a batch service to that. Application stack service is kind of a more complex one. So it's like if you are to complete a transaction, you have to open up multiple forms and do multiple steps, all within the same transactional integrity. That's where application stack service is utilized. So you can open up a Rails session and you can, while those forms are not visible, all the steps and actions that you need to perform across different forms to complete a transaction can be available through the application stack service. The 4th one is the data service, where, as the name suggests, it allows you to query any database or the business view, and you can send that data out. It's a read-only. It can send out the data to an external system that might want to read some of the data. Now, let's talk about enterprise mobility and how it utilizes AIS. So some of the use cases that are obvious, and we're going to discuss here in terms of the architecture. Again, you have the core JD Edwards. You have different mobile platforms, including a mobile browser, iOS, Android, Windows Mobile, and the mobile browser itself. So you can utilize, there are many mobile application frameworks that are available that are cross-platform. So you can use either Oracle's MAF, which is now called MAX. It used to be called Mobile Application Framework. Now it's being made part of the mobile cloud service, and it's called Mobile Application Accelerator. There's Xamarin, which is again an open source framework acquired by Microsoft, but still open source. Ionic, both Ionic and MAF are based on Cordova, which is the underlying cross-platform framework. Xamarin is more closer to being a native app. Then you can utilize application interface services, as I suggested, using the REST protocol. And you can do all sorts of stuff right from your mobile app, like location-based services. You can have field force automation. All sorts of different use cases for different industries are possible. You can have real-time collaboration done, notifications and approvals, maybe time entry, sales order entries, and so on and so forth. The list is limitless, pretty much. Now let's talk about the e-commerce part. So the e-commerce can utilize both BSSV and AIS for more transactional type of integrations, like sales order entry. BSSV might be a better fit, but the ones that need more real-time information could be, utilizing AIS or more. I mean, real-time. Both of them are real-time, but it's more about the UX, more about the user experience when you compare BSSV with AIS, because SOAP has a higher overhead. It needs authentication, it has headers and all that. So you do feel that a little bit lag if you're talking about, especially from the mobile app. So let's talk about the e-commerce specifically here. And as I said, that you can use both business services as well as AIS to integrate that with plethora of different e-commerce options that are available. It could be open source. It could be the ones that are provided by Oracle. They could be on-prem. They could be on the cloud. All of that can be made available. And some of the use cases that might be applicable here are sales order entry, inventory sync, order processing, and the shipment tracking. What that basically does for you is provide your customer a very seamless experience. It never should know what systems are there at the back. It's the whole experience from the mobile app perspective, from the e-commerce experience, should be completely seamless for the customers. Push notifications, slick interfaces, galleries, and stuff like that. All of that should be focused on creating the great customer experience, so that you have the real high conversion for the orders that they put in their carts and so on and so forth. However, at the back end, it should be connected with your inventory management, should be connected with your sales order entry and your JD Edwards, but it should be very seamless. Customers should not know that what's happening behind the scenes. Let's now get to the little bit of a fun part here. It's the smart equipment integration. So if you have a lot of different equipments deployed at the customer site, and you need to service them, you need to predict when they might go down, so that you can preempt that, so that before they go down, you don't have the downtime, and at a reduced cost, you can fix them as per your SLA. Enterprise asset monitoring, inspections, tracking of your equipments and your shipments. So here's a very interesting tool called IoT orchestrator. And this orchestrator is basically, it fully leverages your AIS. What it does, it lets you orchestrate not really a business process, but more like a interaction between your equipments, the sensor data, and your core JD Edwards modules. Without even having to write much of a code. So you can map out an orchestration, you can define the rules there, you can take action, and these service requests are actually going to make the REST calls into your application interface services, which are then connected to your forms and to your applications and all that other stuff, fun stuff that we saw earlier when we were focusing on the AIS itself. Let's see modules for the orchestrator. So obviously orchestration, the key, you have service requests, you have whitelist. Obviously you don't want to allow all the different equipments in the world to be sending their sensor data into your IoT infrastructure. So you can whitelist which equipments and devices are authorized, which equipment IDs are authorized to be sending the data. You can define the business rules. These rules could be very simple and depending on what scenarios we're talking about. They could also be connected to your machine learning. It could also be connected to your AI and based on that, it can be self-learning over the time as to what you do with that data that you collect. And you can also obviously cross-reference different JD Edwards based on the relationship between the application modules. Here's a sneak peek of, here what's happening is you're defining an orchestration, you can define a rule, and you are updating equipment status. So it's kind of a quick screenshot from the orchestrator itself. The other thing, the SOA integration with JD Edwards. So obviously, while we have all these different integration frameworks, which could be point-to-point, most of the time, these business processes, if you can refer back to the original Venn diagram we saw, where we talked about the operational backbone, we talked about the customer interactions and the digital intelligence, we talked about a circle that encapsulated all of them, and we said that this is the most important area where all of these overlap together. So if you're talking about a point-to-point integration where there isn't an enterprise-wide business process, you could use a big BSSV and connect directly with an enterprise cloud app. But however, if there is a business process that needs to connect to more than, let's say, 2-3 different applications as part of a single business process, that's where you need a SOA integration. That's where you need an integration cloud service, or you need a process cloud service, and you need different sort of middleware components that we're going to see here. Now the good thing is that JD Edwards now provides both SOAP, REST, as well as the IoT integration into your SOA modules. So you could have your business activity monitor, you could have complex event processor, business rule engine, business process engine. You can even have those AI and big data, real-time analytics integrated with your middleware. If you want to keep that intelligence centralized across different applications, this would be the right candidate to have your big data lake here, instead of having it right inside of localized within your JD Edwards orchestrator, for example. So here you can see all the different enterprise cloud apps. On the left, you see different e-commerce. It could be different mobile apps. Now this customer, as part of one interaction or one flip on the screen of a mobile app, could actually be pulling data from all the different applications. And to make that customer experience seamless and awesome, you need to make sure that you are leveraging AIS, you're leveraging business services where it might be applicable to give that sort of a slick experience to the end customer. Now let's see it all working together, and that's the fun part. What we can also do, by the way, is at the end of this webinar, you can go ahead and contact us for a one-on-one session where we'll be happy to look at your current infrastructure and talk about your integration roadmap and how you can employ all these different technologies in the right mix to best suit your business needs. So let's go and take a look at how it all works end to end. So we've taken a hypothetical scenario, but it's a very common scenario, especially for the field service orgs, especially for equipment manufacturers who need to service their customer at the least cost, need to reduce the inventory as much as possible across the different service centers. This is a pretty, this is a scenario which you might really be interested in. So here what's happening, you have an equipment, and that appliance is reporting the data constantly to your IoT cloud service. And with that IoT cloud service, you have the JD Edwards IoT orchestrator integrated with that, which is sending data to your core module inside of JD Edwards, creating a work order in this specific case. What we've also done is something really interesting, which is we've built an IoT control panel inside of JD Edwards work order module to provide a two-way integration. What that really means is that your service agent or your first level support can actually connect to the remote equipment, to a remote drilling machine, or to a remote generator, and can do an initial diagnosis on that. And we'll take a look at some of the screens for that. So it's seamlessly integrated with JD Edwards at the back end, and then using the integration with Field Service Cloud that we saw earlier, is sending out, scheduling an appointment with the customer. It's integrated with Knowledge Cloud, so your field service engineer is fully equipped with all the tribal knowledge that you have within the organization at the fingertips. Then also, your field engineer can also pull up the sensor data using the IoT cloud service built right inside of the mobile app. The Field Service Cloud moves on. You can use Policy Cloud, if you will, to have your business rules available. and then you can have a BI cloud for your historic analysis that you want to do. And then you can also have the social cloud, so that once you gave a great experience to the customer, you would like that customer to become your advocate, and then also reach out and tell everybody that great story that you created for them. So here's the high-level architecture. What we're leveraging here is JD Edwards IoT orchestrator. Obviously, when I say orchestrator, is using AIS at the back. You could also be using business services to integrate with field service directly. We're using Oracle IoT Cloud, and we're using this Oracle Service Cloud as well. So you're using Oracle PaaS here, using Integration Cloud and Business Cloud Service to make this integration possible. You could have all sorts of different integration frameworks here. You could have TIBCO, you could have the Integration Cloud Service from Dell. There are all sorts of different options that you have available that you could be utilizing on the middleware side of things. Let's take that scenario. So you have your JD Edwards here, and then you have a remote equipment. You have a remote asset. It could be your enterprise asset, or it could be an equipment that you sold to a customer that needs servicing on an ongoing basis as part of the SLA. Now that equipment is sending data, sensor data, right inside of Oracle IoT Cloud Service. So instead of, once that data is collected in the IoT Cloud Service, you can have different algorithms that we've put in here to map the brain of your best service engineer to diagnose. So if in this specific case, we took 4 parameters. We took the ampere, we took the coil temperature, we took the air temperature, and we took the pressure. Based on that, these 4 sensors give a telltale sign as whether an air conditioner or HVAC is about to fail, for example, right? So based on that, we predicted that it might fail. Then it sent it out, created a work order inside of JD Edwards using the orchestrator. Once the work order got created, we've also integrated with JD Edwards to Field Service Cloud. So the same work order became a field service task, got assigned to the right service engineer based on the field service engineer's location, based on the inventory that they're carrying in their truck, based on their expertise. All those different parameters are being taken into account while determining which field service engineer gets this task. And if you can do a smart routing of this sort, where you're leveraging all the data from your core ERP, from your IoT, from your equipment, and all that data, and your customer's profile, what SLAs they are on, and all of that, if you can make a decision based on that, which engineer to service that customer in the real time, this is the sort of real-time intelligence and real-time integration we're talking about by leveraging all these technologies together. The other thing, which is the fun part, that even from within JD Edwards, while you're working on the work order module, you can actually connect to the IoT controller and to the device itself to do an initial diagnosis, as we'll see in some of the screens here. So first of all, the smart appliance is connected to IoT Cloud, to the IoT orchestrator, and to the JD Edwards. So let's look at that first piece here. Here's an equipment which is connected, which has this microcontroller that we built, and we put in the Java library for the IoT Cloud Service inside of it, which passes data onto the IoT Cloud Service. And all of the sensor data, here you can apply, we basically deployed some intelligent algorithms here. You could have a full-blown machine learning capability here. And you can integrate that with your big data analytics, and you can determine, based on the historic trends, you can determine, okay, this is about to go down. This equipment is about to go down. There could be hundreds of different data points that you could be using in your algorithms, and that could actually enhance over time. And then through machine learning, your predictions are going to keep getting accurate as you move forward. So what's happening here is, using this, it's actually leveraging IoT orchestrator, and it's based on the pre-built orchestration that we deployed here. Is going to update the equipment status. So it's going to maybe change the status to say it's it's about to go, there's a chance of it getting faulty, and you can associate a work order as part of this orchestration, because you can have multiple service requests, remember, and each service request corresponds to a certain action inside of your JD Edwards. So you can have all sorts of different orchestrations available here. So as soon as the data came in, remember, it's all real time. Your sensor data is coming in, you're analyzing that data in the IoT Cloud Service, as we saw earlier. You're determining through your artificial intelligence and machine learning, what sort of a potential issue is there with the equipment, and then you're updating your JD Edward module and creating the work order all in the real time. So here is a mapper where you can map out your equipment number, your temperature, room temperature, all that other details as part of a work order, and you can map it to your work order module. Then those work order, you can track the status within JD Edwards, and all of that is reflected inside of your. You can also have it integrated with other cloud apps as well, as we'll see as we move forward. Now, before we do that, let's take a look at the IoT control panel that we built. What we did, as I told earlier, that we gave the first level support the capability to have a control of the equipment right there. So you can see the refresh. They can keep refreshing the sensor data. They can control, they can change temperature, they can power it on or off. It could be as sophisticated as you want for the different device model that you might have installed. But this is just an example of what the possibilities are. Here, what we've done is we've leveraged, as you would know, we needed to grab an event from within JD Edwards. So we leveraged the consumer business service, which in turn invoked a REST API, which in turn invoked the actual equipment's library in order to change take action on the equipment itself, or get a fresh data on that. So depending on what sensitivity is there for the equipment, you might or might not want to give this control. If, for example, you would definitely not give a remote control to a CT scan machine, right? But in other cases, you might want to at least diagnose that and maybe not give the control. In others, you might actually give them the control to control the equipment right from within JD Edwards. So it all depends on the specific use case industry. Next, as we said, the JD Edwards is seamlessly integrated with the field service cloud and the knowledge management and the IoT cloud service. So here what we've done is we built a plugin right inside of a work order module, which communicates seamlessly with field service cloud, gets the capacity available, gets the location of your field service agents, and determines in the real time who is the best service engineer based on their relationship with the customer, based on the customer's feedback in the past, based on what equipment they are carrying, what equipment are required to fix this particular issue. So many different parameters that we've mapped here in order to make sure that we pass it on to the right service engineer. Here you see this is the field service cloud interface, and here you see a one activity, field service activity generated right from within JD Edwards. This is the mobile app interface that you see on the step 3 here, where the particular service engineer gets notified about the activity, the field service activity, or the case that they've been assigned. And they can go in and they can actually again see the sensor data from within field service cloud, and that's again an interesting interface that we built on top of it. So that's pretty much it as far as the demo is concerned. I would love to hear your feedback on this, and we would like to have a one-on-one session that we can plan and where we can take you through some of the fun stuff that we've seen here in more contextual setting as per your current infrastructure, right? So we can talk about which JD Edwards version you are on, if you're on 8.1 or 9.1 or already on 9.2, what are the integration paths that you've got, what technologies you need to make sure you understand internally, and what you can outsource, what you should keep inside as part of your integration architecture that you should never outsource, for example. So things like those, we would love to have those sessions. We would love to understand your current infrastructure and do a review for that, and in turn build a JD Edwards integration roadmap. So that's pretty much it. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them on the group chat window that you see on the right. Okay, so the first question that I get here is, what is the relationship between the orchestrator and the AIS? It's a pretty interesting relationship. The AIS gives you a complete control of all the different actions that you have available within all the different applications within JD Edwards. So if you have to populate a field, you have to populate a grid, you have to click a button, you take a certain action within a form or across the forms. All of that is provided as REST API pretty powerful, right? What orchestrator does on top of it is gives you a sequence of the calls that you can make. And that orchestrator cannot just connect within JD Edwards, but the good thing is that it's, can communicate with the outside world. Like in this specific case, we saw that it was communicating with the IoT cloud service. It could communicate directly with your middleware. It could connect directly with your CRM, for example. It could connect to any third-party application, or even to the smart equipments. Like it could communicate directly, get the data. Think of it as receiving a stream of data and making sense of that. Using the rule engine, you can determine what localized algorithms that you need within the JD Edwards layer. And based on that, you can then make the service request onto your AIS server, which, again, as I said, is very seamlessly connected with all the core modules. So that's the key relationship between the AIS and orchestrator. Okay, any other question? Okay, BSSV versus AIS. Yeah, that's the question that keep getting asked all the time. And that's something which is very important to understand. So obviously, when you're talking about transactional systems connecting together, which doesn't have much of the UX needed, so to say, business services is more robust, because kind of have all the security headers and everything in place that you can leverage. So any integration which is more of a transactional nature, right? So if you have a B2B integration with your partners, you have an EDI integration, you are receiving orders by third party, through your distributors, for example. But having them integrated doesn't really need any user experience. Those sort of integrations are a good candidate for business services. But whenever you're talking about more chatty apps, like a social network or a mobile app, end consumer mobile app especially, where even a micro milliseconds count, that's where you don't want that extra overhead of SOAP, which is the protocol for business services, which is where you would need REST, which is much faster as opposed to SOAP. And then if you are looking to further go with the IoT route in the future, you might also need to look into that orchestrator and how it connects with AIS. Having said that, you need to make sure, because therefore you need to understand one thing. When you need to invoke an event inside of JD Edwards, and based on that event, you need to make an outside call, you might need business service. You might need a consumer service there for a two-way interaction. So right now, orchestrator is more of a one-way interaction. It collects the data, outside data, passes it on to your AIS, and saves it into your JD Edwards. But if you want to do the other way around, it's helpful to have business services as part of the roadmap. So that's with regards to BSSV and AIS. We would love to help you on that as well. We can have that session where we sit with you, understand your priorities for your digital transformation, and have a path moving forward as to how you do what and when, more importantly. Any other question? Okay, so the question is that is all of that you've shown already available and working? Absolutely. So what we've done, working closely with Oracle product management teams for IoT Cloud Service, we are on the customer advisory board for Oracle IoT Cloud Service. So we have a lot of early access on a lot of stuff. What we've done using that, we've built these integrations ahead of time. Even when those needs weren't starting to arise, we have actually developed that. We have that field service integration, the JD Edwards already built in. We've got a service cloud in JD Edwards. We've got a sales cloud in JD Edwards integration, leveraging all these tool sets. So we're not just saying that it's just obviously there are going to be scenarios where you need a bespoke integration, but we also have a lot of pre-built stuff within the Oracle ecosystem and even outside. So feel free to reach out to schedule demos on the pre-built stuff that you just saw there, and we would love to help you start adopting all of that. Okay, yeah. So the other questions are kind of repetitive, so we'll leave them there. Thanks a lot, everyone, for tuning in. It's a pleasure going through this interesting webinar, which is very close to our heart. because that's our key area that we really get excited about, and the sort of projects we are working on these days are really interesting times for us. Thanks a lot for tuning in. Take good care wherever you are. Have a great day. Bye-bye.